Turn, if you please, to the book of Psalms. The book of Psalms. The book of Psalms. The 47th Psalm. We're so accustomed to saying, turn to this book, chapter, so-and-so. But the book of Psalms doesn't have chapters. They're each individual songs to the Lord. So it's the 47th Psalm. I gave you that one for free. You got to pay good money at the seminary to get that kind of stuff. Amen. The 47th Psalm. This particular psalm is actually not a psalm of David, but a psalm of the sons of Korah. And it says this from I want to read this actually from the King James today. Because the King James just says it in a way that blesses my socks off. It blesses my soul. The King James says, "Oh, clap your hands, all ye people. Shout unto God with the voice of triumph." And let's switch back over to the New American. It's that voice of, the New American says the voice of joy. That just doesn't do it for me. I love that phrase, the voice of triumph. For the Lord Most High is to be feared. The King James said he is terrible. But just in case you thought that meant that he was bad, the New American Standard elaborated. For the Lord Most High is to be feared, a great king over all the earth. He subdues peoples under us and nations under our feet. Nations, he says. He chooses our inheritance for us, the glory of Jacob, whom he loves. Selah. Pause. Think about that for a minute. God has ascended with a shout. The Lord with the sound of a trumpet. Sing praises to God. Sing praises, I say. Sing praises to our King. Sing praises. For God is the King of all the earth. So sing praises with a skillful song. King James says, sing praises with understanding. Know what you're singing about. Don't just repeat the lyrics. Mean it. God reigns over the nations. God sits on his holy throne. The princes of the people have assembled themselves together as the people of God, of Abraham. For the shields of the earth belong to God. He is highly exalted. I'll talk to you this afternoon on the subject, the voice of triumph. I so rarely give a sneak peek into what I'm going to speak about, but I was in such a place last night I had to post it on Facebook. Because there is something about opening your mouth and blessing the Lord. Man, it is not my intention to criticize your particular method of adoring the Lord. But it is my responsibility to teach you what the word says. Now, the word says, speak contemplatively unto the Lord, as softly and as thoughtfully as you may. That's not what it says. I see some faces looking at the Bible scrunched up. That's not what my book says. Because my Bible says, shout to the Lord. Not with the voice of unassurance, with the voice of confusion, with the voice of maybe, with the voice of I hope so, with the voice of I'm praying about it. Shout with the voice of triumph. But before it gets there, it says clap. Now watch this. You have to see this song for what it is. It is a song of warfare. It is a song of warfare. He's talking about God being the king and God giving them the victory. God causing the nations and the peoples to be under their feet. God reigning on the throne. Even their enemies had to come join them and pay homage to the King of Kings and to the Lord of Lords. This is a psalm of warfare. And as we practiced during worship, we understand that warfare is not quiet and pretty-like. Warfare is ugly and loud and boisterous. See, warfare doesn't care if your shirt gets tangled up. Warfare doesn't care if the mascara begins to run. Because when you are really out there trying to get victory where the enemy almost had you, it doesn't matter what you look like. It doesn't matter if you sweated out all your secrets. You've gone to war. And one thing I refuse to do is lose. Not when my daddy is the king of the universe. Not when my daddy is God. I refuse to lay down in defeat. But there is a means by which victory is received. See, victory has already been granted, but you have to receive it. You have to be able to walk in it. Everybody who is victorious is not existing victoriously. Everybody who has triumphed is not existing triumphantly. But this scripture gives us the key to walking in this. Oh, clap, clap, clap your hands. The word clap in the Hebrew is takah. It is spelled in English. The English transliteration is T-A-Q-A. T-A-Q-A. To call. And it means slap. To slap your hands together. It's derived from a word that means to drive in. To drive in. Like pegs of a tent. Look it up when you get home. Look it up in your Strong's Bible Dictionary. To drive in like pegs of a tent. I don't know if you've ever been camping, but you can't just let anybody take the hammer and try to put the nail in the peg into the ground because it's not going to sit. And when the first wind comes along, there goes the tent. When you want to put that tent up and make sure the tent survives so that it covers you through the night, you have to drive that peg down into the ground. You have to drive it. Even though the ground is not wet, even though the ground is hard, you have to drive it. We have to learn that about worship. Every time you get together and get ready to worship, the atmosphere is not going to be filled with the glory of God. Sometimes you have to drive your praise. I don't see it, I don't feel it, but I have to drive my praise. The ground is not cooperating. The atmosphere is not cooperating. The attitude of my brothers and sisters in the Lord are not cooperating, but I refuse to let my praise go quietly into that good night because I need victory in my life. So slap, he says, your hands together. Slap them like you're driving a peg into the ground. Slap them until your back doesn't hurt anymore. Slap them until the bill gets paid. Slap your hands together, all ye peoples, and shout unto God with the voice of triumph. The word triumph in the Hebrew is renah, and it is spelled R-I-N, N-A-H, R-I-N, N-A-H. Renah means a shrill sound. Shrill being high-pitched and sharp. High and sharp. Why y'all yelling? Because I'm on assignment to become high and sharp. bless the Lord, oh my soul. No, bless the Lord. Hallelujah. I'm on assignment. Now, what is that? What is that word? Not shout. You would think shout was the word. Sharp, high-pitched, and shrill. No, it's triumph. That lets me know that triumph is not a state of being. Triumph is a sound. Triumph. It didn't say victorious. It didn't say the winner. It said shrill, high-pitched. Triumph is a sound. You hear triumph. And that's what's wonderful about it, because it made me remember the old Roman culture. They would have what they called the triumphal entry. Jesus had one. When the king would go out to conquer and he would return victorious, they would have a celebratory parade. And the parade was called a triumph. Well, why is it a parade? Why is it a celebration? Because that's what triumph is. Triumph is to celebrate over your adversary. It's to scream and to shout. It's to dance all over the grave of your enemy. Now, when I say that, I'm talking about demons, not people. Or we wrestle not. Y'all know the passage. Triumph is to make a fool of your adversary by screaming and shouting aloud over his defeat. Now watch this. If you can shout with the voice of triumph, that means that triumph has a sound. It's the voice of triumph. And so it was hidden there all the time. But did we ever pause and say, what is the voice of triumph? And what does the voice of triumph sound like? See, this is the challenge that we have as warriors. You don't wait. This is the old timey way to say it, but it's so real. You don't wait until the battle is over. You shout now. Why? Because that's how you're going to win the battle. If you wait till it's over, it's done. There's no good to cry aloud. The enemy has already been defeated. Scream and shout on your way in, wielding the sword of the Spirit while you're about to attack him and terrify him, because he doesn't realize how it is that you're coming at him with such confidence, with such crazed, screaming abandon. Abandon means you've totally lost sight of who you are, where you are, who's sitting next to you. You just lost it. I want us to come into this place and lose it. That's why the doggone pews are bolted down. Go ahead and run into them. I don't care. Lose sight of yourself in your praise. They'll move over because I need this victory. I have fought too hard and too long to let it go. Amen. But it's not about how you feel. Amen. War will tire you out. I don't care how holy you are. I don't care how much you fast. I don't care how much you study the word. War will tire you out. When we look in the gospel, as Jesus was going to war with the enemy and trying to minister to people, that's part of warfare. And he's ministering all day long. And so many people are coming to him for help. And he's laying hands and he's prophesying, he's praying, and people are getting healed, and people are getting delivered. And finally, he said, I have nothing left. So the Bible said that he went out and set himself apart. When they crossed the river, everybody is aware of the story of Jesus calming the raging sea. But people don't realize, people think that Jesus was in the boat, in the bottom of the boat asleep because he was so spiritual. No, He was in the bottom of the boat asleep because he was so tired. Because warfare, let there be light. Because warfare can tire you out. But he was not so tired to still get up and speak to the winds. Rebuke the winds, command the waves. He still had to cause something within him to well up, even in the midst of his body not cooperating. And we have to stop letting our bodies determine the level and magnitude of our praise that deserves to be repeated. We have to stop letting what we are feeling in our bodies determine the level and magnitude of our praise, because your body still operates in the fleshly realm. That means it is still under subjection to the enemy, because the Bible calls him the God of this world. How is it that a believer can get lupus? How is it that a believer can get name your disease? Because the flesh is not born again. The flesh is still among the elements of this world. And we cannot let what has no intention of praising him bless him. David said, I command my soul to bless them. I command my hands to be lifted. I command them to slap together. Because I'm driving in my tent, because it's going to cover me when the storm comes. There's not a storm coming. It's nice and pretty outside. There's a storm coming. As my grandmother say, keep living, keep living. Because eventually a storm is going to come. That is the way of the world. And I prepare myself for the storm by driving in my praise and by shouting to God with a shrill, sharp sound. I love one of the other definitions of triumph. One of the other definitions says, and I promise you I did not make this up. It says, being insistent on being heard. Being insistent on being heard. I insist on being heard. The enemy, oh, you're going to hear me today. You're going to hear me because I refuse to be louder about the problem than I am with my praise. I refuse to be louder about my trouble than I am about my triumph. And how much energy and effort do we give talking up all the bad stuff in our lives, and then we patty cake God. Bless you, Lord. Bless you. Bless you. No. Slap them. Shout. Insist on being heard. You ought to have a contest with your neighbor. I can shout louder than you. I said, I can't go to y'all yell too much. We're learning about the voice of triumph. It's a voice. It's a voice. If you're going to be hoarse, don't be hoarse because you've been crying all night. Be hoarse, shouting unto God. Notice this, you are not shouting unto the condition. That's right. Ooh, that deserves a dance. You are not shouting unto the problem. You are not shouting about the bill. You are not shouting and screaming and crying because your kids are acting a fool. You are shouting to the Lord in the midst of the problem. If we can redirect our focus and our attention, you have to understand something. God has given us a supernatural ability to, now this is going to sound very metaphysical, but don't be afraid. God has given us a supernatural ability to empower that which we focus our mind on. I don't know how it works, but there is a supernatural ability, and even the world has started to learn that, and they've engrafted that into their New Age theology. You can't call it theology, it's bad thinking. But they've engrafted that into their belief system. And because they put it in their beliefs, the Christian church wanted to let go of it. But you don't just give them that started in the good book. We have the power to empower that which we desire to see by getting it in our thoughts, by getting it in our mouth. Out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaketh, but it has to start in the thoughts. Okay? Because your thought and your mouth have to be in alignment with one another. You can't just speak it and not believe it, and you shouldn't be believing it if you can't speak it. Bring them into alignment. Isn't that how you got born again? You have to believe in your heart and say with your mouth.
That's right. Yes.
That's how we bring praise to God. We get our thoughts together. We open our mouths and we declare the glory of the Lord. We insist on being heard. Now look down to verse 3. The Lord is most high. The Lord most high is to be feared, a great king over all the earth. And it goes on to say this. He chose for us our inheritance. No. That's verse 4. He subdues people under us and nations under our feet. He subdues people under us and nations under our feet. Here's the question. Why are you treating your situation like it's a worthy enemy? When you are a king or a ruler, you don't waste time with the simple folk. That sounds so ugly, but it's so real. Go tomorrow and try to speak to President Obama. Knock on the gate. Let me in. Is your name on the list? No, but I want to talk to the president. Well, who are you? You're not going to get in. And if you try, they'll either arrest you or shoot you. Right? You have to go through channels. So the king, especially if you look down in the ages when they were doing the reign of the monarchs, the kings didn't spend time with the simple folk, as they call them, the peasants. It was the kings that were high and lifted up. And they would create these throne rooms that looked so ornate so as to intimidate and scare the people when they walked in. The throne would always be lifted up above because I am not on the same level as you. When you look at me, you will be looking up. Right? So then why, if we claim to be kings and rulers together with Christ, are we allowing our enemy to relate to us on the same level? The Bible says, so beneath you is your adversary, that he has placed them under your feet. Amen. There is no lower place than to be able to walk on somebody. To be abased. To be as low to the ground as you can get. And God is saying, this is the position that you occupy over the enemy. And you spend so much time talking up the devil, you spend so much time talking up his schemes and his plots and his plans, that you are empowering him beyond that which he is able to do. You may as well take him by his hand and lift him up from the low place Christ kicked him down to. Learn how to deal with your enemy like he really is under your feet. Now, he talks about people and nations because this was the time of the monarchs. But for our purposes, we're looking at this spiritually. The nations and the people that are under our feet is the kingdom of the enemy. It's the kingdom of darkness. It's depression under my feet. It's sickness under my feet. It's conflict with loved ones under my feet. Stop acting like you all are equal. Cancer is not your equal. It has nothing on the power of the God that is inside of you. Don't deal with it on equal footing. What use have I to talk to cancer? The only thing I have to say to you is goodbye.
There you go.
Off with your head. Because the nations, the peoples are under us. They are beneath us and under our feet. Now here's the wonderful thing about purpose and destiny. He chooses, verse 4, our inheritance for us. That means that which he is going to bless you with, that which he is going to bring you into, already belongs to you. And so this whole process is the fight of you laying hold to it. So the things that you are desirous to accomplish, the things that you are desirous to do, the vision that you put down on paper, the destiny that you feel God created you for, this fight of triumph, this fight of blessing God, this fight of slapping your hands together is a fight to bring into the manifestation that which he has already declared is yours. You are not, please understand, you are not fighting to make your vision yours. It already belongs to you. Amen. It already belongs to you. Just because it is currently not in your possession does not mean it doesn't belong to you. Let somebody possess your wallet and see if you just let it go. It may be in your hands. That's my money, and I want it back. What's that commercial with the money that you get the annual the annuity payment, and he opened the window. It's my money, and I want it back, or I want it now. It's right. We ought to start doing that. It's my healing, and I want it now. It's my joy and my peace, and I want it now. Why can you demand it now? Because it belongs to me. I own the title. This is my legal document, my legal claim to everything the enemy has in his possession that belongs to me. How do you know it belongs to you? Because my God has already assigned it as my inheritance. But you can't inherit until the person dies. He did 2,000 years ago. Just because he got backed up doesn't still belong to me. It's mine. My joy, my peace, my prosperity, my family, it's all mine. It doesn't belong to me. Everything belongs to everybody. Listen, I'm not trying to tell you how to believe socio-politically. You can be a Democrat, you can be a Republican, you can be a Libertarian. But one thing I will say is God is a capitalist. This is a word of possession. It's ours. It doesn't belong to everybody. My healing doesn't also belong to the devil. The whole idea of capitalism is its notion of private property. You can't lay claim and ownership to something that belongs to the community. I'm going to teach this today. That which is mine is mine. People say, well, is the money yours? Listen, that which is mine is mine. Now, I can do with it as I please, which is why the enemy was able to trick Adam, because he was able to do with it as he pleased. If the earth also belonged to God, Adam couldn't have lost it. But Adam made the earth. God made the earth. Adam is private. Go home. I'm going to see this all over Facebook. Pastor said God was a capitalist. Listen, you got to understand what I mean. I'm not talking about the world system. I'm talking about the spirit. That which belongs to you is yours, and you are not called to lay down and accept what the enemy is trying to deceive you with. The fact that you are not healed is an illusion. He's trying to deceive you and make you let go of the healing that is your possession. Oh, wow. He's tricking you. He's a trickster. What to say? You've been hoodwinked. You've been bamboozled. You've been run amok. But it's time to take the wool off your eyes and realize you are prosperous. You are worthy in him. You do have right standing. You are no longer an enemy of God. God is your friend. You do have the money to do it. You do have the people, the network to accomplish it. You do have the healing. You do have the joy. All the things you want already belong to you. That's my Southern Baptist way of saying it. It already belonged to you. Verse 5, God has ascended. Man, God has ascended with a shout. Now, some of the alternate translations actually say that he's ascended to his throne. He's ascended to his throne with the shout. The Lord with the sound of a trumpet. We say, let God arise, let his enemies be scattered. Let God arise. God has ascended. But how does he ascend? He ascends with the shout. See, you enthrone God with the shout. The words that God is enthroned in the praises of Israel. So if you want God to show up in the situation, you have to enthrone him in the situation. See, if you go to the doctor's office, make sure that he's on the throne when you walk in. When the bill collector calls, tell him, hold on just a minute, and mute the phone and enthrone the Lord over your finances. See, you can't just enthrone him when you get born again and expect him to stay on the throne for the rest of your days. You have to constantly place him back on the throne because life happens. And you have to remind yourself, and you have to replace God to the place where there is no one higher than him. And see, when you know he's on the throne, when you know actively in that moment that God is on the throne, then you won't lay down and accept anything. Because you will realize there is someone higher. I told you all this testimony so many times. I want to try to give you the short version. You all know that I was had identity theft some years ago, about 2001. Yes, it was 2001. It was right after my court date. It was right after 9/11. And I had to go over to Illinois, all the way to the suburbs of Chicago to clear my name on a traffic ticket that was gotten. No insurance, no license, no nothing. I'm like, oh, it wasn't even me in the car. And the officer was there who gave the ticket. And I was so glad. I'm like, because now that means that he can prove it wasn't me. The man got up, got sworn in, and identified me as the person driving the car. I said, well, I'm done for. Because what judge would take the word of just a person over the word of a police officer? But I tell you one thing, the judge may have been sitting high, but my God was sitting higher. Y'all know how the story went. I won the case. Not only did I win the case, but the prosecuting attorney was so upset that the judge had the audacity to dismiss the case that he got upset. And he refused to comply with the judge's order, and he was found in contempt and removed from the courtroom. Why? Because my God sits higher. And what happened? There was no longer a prosecuting attorney in the courtroom. So every case after mine had to be dismissed. It reminds me of Paul being shipwrecked. And not a single soul was lost. Why? Because Paul was on the boat. See, you have the ability to bless your family. You have the ability to bless your friends. But they're heathens. So that's why the church has to stop being so judgmental. See, people can get born again because... Keep reading. Watch this. I'm going to show it to you right here. God has been enthroned with your shout. The Lord with the sound of the trumpet. So do what? Sing praises to God. Sing praises. Sing praises to our King. Sing praises. For God is the King of all the earth. Sing praises with a skillful song, with understanding. God reigns over the nations. God sits on his holy throne. Watch this. The princes of the people, not the believers, the people, the unbelievers, the heathens, the princes of the people have assembled themselves, watch this, as the people of the God of Abraham. What does that mean? That even the unbelievers have been brought to worship God. The shields of the earth belong to God. They've been disarmed. They no longer have anything to fight with. And now even your enemy is exalting the Lord. Even the heathen is exalting the Lord because you had the ability to drive in your praise. The prince of the people assembled themselves as the people of the God of Abraham. They weren't the people of the God of Abraham. They were unbelievers. But they assembled themselves together before his throne as the people of the God of Abraham. For the shields of the earth belong to God. He is highly exalted. See, when you triumph the sound, when you triumph, you even drag your enemies into submission to God. Think about that. Think about that. The same doctor who told you you had a month to live doesn't believe in God, and then tell you go home and pray, go home and seek the Lord's face, go home and fast, go home and do whatever you got to do. But God can heal you, but throw yourself into his word. Throw yourself into the sound of worship. Turn the CD on and let it minister to you. How many doctors tell you that? But they'll put you in the grave. But see, when you begin to triumph, and triumph is a sound, even those who are speaking against you are made to honor God. Think about it. How? When you come back healed. They know what they saw on that readout, whatever it's called, the x-ray. And they have no way to say, what do they say? Well, whatever you're doing, keep on doing. Well, doc, let me tell you what I've been doing. I've been slapping my hands together. I've been shouting to the Lord with the shrill sound, with the high-pitched sound, because I insisted on being louder than your diagnosis. I insisted on being heard. Do not be a cowardice people of God. You are more. How could you would think there's no way to be more than a conqueror. The conqueror is the one who won. How could you be more? God said you are more than a conqueror. Even those who conquered are under your feet. Goodness. Stop living like a pauper and a peasant. You are more. And you can insist on being heard. Insist that your praise is heard. Insist that your worship is heard. I know you want to have quiet time with the Lord. Have it. But also have your stumped down crazy, lost my mind, lost my earpiece, lost my head, lost my hair that got sewn in. You lost it all because he's God. Because triumph has a sound. It's a definite. The is a definite article. It is the voice of triumph. That tells me God has the angels waiting on the voice of triumph. Because they can only hand victory to those who are already triumphant. And triumph has a sound. So I challenge you in the name of Jesus. Lose your mind in praise. Nobody cares. Now Ty will probably put it on Facebook. We call her our resident paparazzi. But nobody cares. Lose your mind. Scream. We was talking at the business meeting yesterday. Run if you want to run. Roll in the floor. They called us holy rollers at one point. Let them roll. Do whatever you have to do because you are desperate for victory. We have learned from the 47th Psalm how it works. Exercise your voice of triumph.